Hello everyone, happy belated Resurrection Sunday. So today I'm going to be responding to two questions. The first question is regarding the resurrection. Does the willingness to die for a belief make the belief more credible? And the second question, which of course is related, is should we believe in the resurrection because the disciples were willing to die for their belief in it? So, in response to the first question, let me say this. I think the willingness to die for a particular belief demonstrates that the person who holds the belief sincerely believes it. Now, with that in mind, I will admit that sincerity in a particular belief doesn't necessarily mean that the belief itself is true, because obviously, Islamic terrorists who decide to bomb buildings and kill innocent people in the name of Allah certainly seem to be sincere about their beliefs for why they choose to do that. However, there is an important distinction to be made here about that issue in relation to the disciples and the resurrection account. Because Islamic terrorists' beliefs are, of course, based on things that they have been taught, as well as on a particular text that has been passed down. However, the disciples' belief in the resurrection, of course, was based on what they themselves witnessed firsthand, not on something that someone else told them or even on something that they read out of a text that had been passed down over so many years, but it was based on their own firsthand account. So, with respect to the disciples regarding their belief in the resurrection, there really is no doubt that they sincerely believed that Jesus rose from the dead, because someone is not going to be willing to be tortured and or killed for something that they don't sincerely believe. So with that distinction in mind, I think it is correct to say that someone's willingness to die for a belief that they hold regarding something that they themselves actually saw firsthand does in fact add to credibility. I think that's right. Now, I will of course admit that it doesn't necessarily mean that a belief is absolutely true, but it certainly does indicate very strongly that the belief is true. It certainly counts in favor of credibility. Now, when it comes to the second question, should we believe in the resurrection because the disciples were willing to die for their belief in it, namely the resurrection? Well, when it comes to the resurrection, I think it's obvious that it doesn't rest on one particular piece of evidence. And of course, what I mean by that is that there are multiple pieces of evidence regarding the resurrection. Everything, from the empty tomb to the post-mortem appearances to the explosion of the Christian faith. And of course, we also have to look at the credibility of the eyewitnesses, namely the disciples, the apostles. And the fact that these men were willing to die for their belief in the resurrection, and of course some of them did die for that belief, goes to their credibility, which of course is evidence that the resurrection did occur. So with all of that said, I think the answer is that people should believe in the resurrection because the truth of it has been demonstrated evidentially. However, the fact that the disciples were willing to die for a belief that they held regarding something that they saw, which of course was the resurrected Christ, is part of the evidential case that has been made for the resurrection. Well, guys, that's it for this video. So as always, please let me know what you think. And remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.